Bonjour tout le monde. Hey Zwifters, je suis Simon Schofield et c'est le Zwiftcast. À venir, cet épisode. Don't worry, I'm not going to keep up the cod French forever. Coming up on this episode, new roads in La Belle France. Even if the virtual tour is not your thing, Zwifters get kilometre after kilometre of magnifique et formidable new routes. L'étape du Tour, though, do seem to be Zwifters' things. Huge numbers on the event rides, taking the same routes as the pros. And bien sûr, the virtual Tour de France itself. We talked to Zwift specialist Freddie Ovet, pipped on the line by 3/100ths of a second in stage 2, but winner on stage 4. We talked to ASO, the tour owners, and we talked to Zwift to get a sense of just how historic this really is. And it is historic, Shane Miller. G'day, mate, by the way, or in fact, bonjour, mon ami. There can be little doubt that it is historic.
Oh, look, in the context of the Zwift product in this podcast, yes, I'll allow the use of the word historic for this, yes, for sure.
Well, I'm glad to see you're being such a stickler for language, talking my language there. Yo dude, Nathan Guerra, is Le Tour Virtuel making such a big splash across the pond as it is here?
Kind of. I don't think. Okay, so the thing is we in America, I think, watch the tour because it's on NBC in July, and so it's not as like cycling is just not as big of a cultural thing here, and so there's a little bit of chatter, but I don't think nearly as much as across the pond. But definitely really cool and historic, I would say, in virtual events. You know, this is a big landmark.
Yeah, it is. It's a big landmark. And my card's on the table right at the start on this. When I first met Zwift CEO Eric Min, something over 6 years ago, he did talk about this very moment.
Welcome to stage 1 of the inaugural virtual Tour de France on Zwift, with some of the finest bike riders on the planet with making history as they battle for the yellow jersey here for the very first time on Zwift. And that is what it is all about.
But I don't think even the passionate optimist that is Eric Min thought it would come so soon. Of course, the pandemic was clearly an accelerant, but the virtual tour has come about, at least in part, because of a long and careful courtship of the ASO by Eric. This was always in the master plan. We'll talk more and hear a couple of interviews about the significance of Le Tour Virtuel later in the episode, but this is a huge chapter in the history of Zwift, as Shane said, and no one has worked harder to achieve it than Eric Min. He deserves huge credit for that. Well done, Eric. And the reason he does deserve that credit is that Le Tour Virtuel is a huge boost for the platform, and what benefits the platform benefits Zwifters.
Ride on!
But for now, let's just go for a meander around the Zwiftified La Belle France. I rode l'Étape du Tour this last weekend, which was realistically the first opportunity for the vast majority of Zwifters who couldn't be bothered to go hacking to get sight of the new tarmac. We still haven't been able to ride the Géante de Provence, Le Mont Ventoux, but that's coming soon, and Shane has found a way. More on that in a moment. But what do we think of what we've seen so far? La casse-patte, or en anglais, the breaking legs? Shane, I think they have done a pretty fine job on this.
Yeah, for sure. Look, any new course on Zwift are a welcome addition. Everybody just begs for new courses and new roads. I mean, I like what I see. I like what I've ridden, and there's a lot of countryside to ride. But not only that, they've put a number of landmarks around the route that really breaks things up. So there's things to identify along the way so you know where you are on this 22.9 kilometre course that we've ridden so far. So yeah, I do like it. And I do like that there's beach sheep. Have you seen the sheep at the beach?
I haven't noticed that. No, I didn't notice the sheep, actually. I noticed a few kind of like, I really, really hate this word so much, but I'm going to have to use it, I'm afraid. And it is quite fitting in these circumstances. A few iconic features of France. I mean, just little things like there's an avenue of trees, which is just so French. And a couple of things I noticed from the helicopter views of the race coverage, which perhaps you don't notice if you're in kind of view 3, which I think most people are when they ride a stage. And the helicopter coverage showed one of those classic constructed by French farmers, bicycle out of hay bales things, which I thought was an absolutely lovely touch. Nathan, your snap verdict.
What really stuck out to me and keeps coming to mind is straightforward. Like you sometimes, so I still don't understand. I understand Innsbruck pretty well. I don't understand Yorkshire completely because it's kind of a mess in my opinion. No offense, but like
careful,
you don't like
careful.
Like, but now this is just straightforward. Like here's a course. Like Shane said, lots of landmarks. You kind of know where you're at. You know what you're approaching, and each of the landmarks are done really, really well. So you kind of get this feeling of like where you're going and how it's going to play out, and you can kind of know what to expect a little more, which makes you plan out your route and how you're going to attack it. So I just kind of like that. Simple, 3 routes, 4 routes. I mean, you can do them backwards and forwards. And kind of snuck over to Vantu after my ride 2 hours ago too. That was pretty cool. So yeah,
Okay,
I really dig it. I love it.
Well, let's get this over with now, shall we? Let's get this "How do you ride Vantu" over with now without hacking. You know, we don't approve of breaches of TOS on the Zwiftcast, but there's a way to do it without hacking. Shane, come on.
Yeah, for sure. Look, and this was picked up straight away as soon as people were dropped into the public version of the course, which was 3 p.m. Saturday our time here. Which I was doing the live stream of that. I think first up in chat, someone said, "Can we quit the event and just turn right and head to Vantu?" Yes, you can. And it works on any platform. So if you enter an event, either the Letap events, which I think are now all over, but the Discovery rides are on this week, you can enter those, just quit the event, and then use your arrow keys to head to the hills.
Interesting. Well, as Vantu's come up, let's discuss that. I mean, we'll go back and discuss the things we have been able to ride officially in a moment, but let's just get the Vantu thing out of the way. Such a long climb. I mean, a really, really long climb, and it's a hard climb. Realistically, Shane, and this may not matter, but realistically, do you think many Zwifters are going to ride Vantu very often?
Well, it's hard to tell. We really don't know. Well, I guess next weekend, thousands and thousands will be riding it, so that's going to be fun. But the longevity of that, I'm not sure. But I said that about the Alpe d'Huez Zwift. I thought, who's going to suffer up that climb? No way. But then only a few weekends ago, there were thousands and thousands of people on there just going for the wheels, for the spin wheel at the top, just going for the masochist badge, just V-Everesting, just using the hill. This one it's not as steep in, I guess it's more constant. It's... This might be quite popular. I mean, if I was to do a 60-minute or a 90-minute hard climb where I didn't want to use erg mode, but I wanted something to push back on the pedals with a constant rate that I just selected a few gears for, this is where I'd head because it sort of opens up at the top. Things change. It's a story that unfolds because it goes for so long. I don't know, but I think it might be quite popular. I don't know, though. Well, how's that for sitting on the fence?
Well, no, but you could be right there, actually, because, I mean, conventional wisdom, I remember on the Zwiftcast we were talking about, well, I think the phrase we used a lot was long climbs on trainers are boring. And then Alpe d'Huez came along and kind of blew that out of the water. I mean, partly because I think of the execution within the game. It was interesting to ride. Now, my worry about Vantu is in real life, it just ain't interesting to ride. It's a long grind through a forest. But of course, Zwift don't have to stick faithfully to that. And the other thing, Nathan, I think is that sometimes perhaps we may underestimate Zwifters' ability to rise to a challenge. I mean, we saw that on back in the early days of the pandemic on the Haute Route stages, which were really hard and were hugely well attended. So perhaps the same thing may apply to Vantu. And we're speaking in the dark here because we haven't seen it.
I think there might be something new here too about access to something iconic like this that you can just jump on and go to, as well as the social aspect. I did Alpe d'Huez Zwift the other day, and people come in to chat in the live stream, Shane's live stream. I see people chatting about this. Like, there's this kind of, I did it the other day, and what about the wheels? And there's kind of this access thing that changes it, I think, about going out and doing this climb. And also the reality of the social aspect where like a group ride can hit it up, or at least your local club. Well, I mean, not local club. I mean, your online club now at this point is chatting about doing it more. And then the whole Everseen thing came around. So I think there's kind of, like you said, this changing attitude where you have a lot more people around you. And the reality is like, you don't pack Mount Ventoux in real life with thousands of people, whereas you can do that in Zwift. Next thing you know, there's people riding all around you, and it becomes this whole other experience.
Yeah. I actually, just very slightly off topic, but I can't let it go unremarked, seeing as you mentioned Everseen. Do you see Contador? Man,
I love it. Like, and he's got to be. I was talking to Keenan in productions actually on for the NRS series we've been running on ZCL, and he was like, "Yeah, shows you how much the guy just loves to ride his bike if he's that fit right now." How awesome is that?
Exactly, and that was always the joy of watching Contador race. You know, he so obviously loves riding his bike.
That style, out of the saddle style Contador. Everybody knows that iconic, the style. We need that in Zwift. We need the avatars to have certain styles. That's what really lighten things up. Yeah, there we go.
Dancing on the pedals. Anyway, that was very off topic, but well done, Alberto. 727, I think. Absolutely incredible. He must still be riding his bike.
Right to the line, too. 230. That was it over Lachlan. I mean, that's right.
Yeah, percentage-wise, that's nothing, is it? That's close.
Yeah. Amazing rider. I miss him badly from World Tour racing. Anyway, back to France. I think the other thing about Ventoux, and I know this from having ridden it in real life several times, and including a real life Etape de Tour I rode it. And the thing about Ventoux, and Zwift have replicated this very, very well, is that wherever you are, not quite wherever you are in Provence, that's somewhat of an exaggeration, but if you are within 20, 30 miles of any direction of Ventoux, you can see the thing because it rises out of kind of a flat plain. It's not surrounded by the mountains. It's such a weird mountain, Ventoux. It's like this huge thing that suddenly pops up out of this flat plain. So if you're in the area, you can see it. And it's like, it taunts you. It's like, I'm here. Why are you not riding up me? And I think Zwift have replicated that very well. And I just think that visual presence, Shane, is it's an incentive, I think.
Oh, look, right near the top, there's some switchbacks that remind me of a few climbs around here in our Alpine region. It feels like a climb because you can just see over to your left, you can see where the climb snakes up. It's something that's missing from the other mountain passes because they're either too steep or there's too much furniture around. But the emptiness of the top where it starts snaking around and you can see the tower and there's this fog that rolls over the hill in Zwift and you can just see the tower come and go and come and you're like, oh God, I've got to climb all the way up there. And you're over an hour into the effort already, knowing you've got 20 or 30 minutes left to go. It's rising to the challenge is what people are going to have to do to get to the top. It's kind of cool. I do like it.
Yeah. Well, obviously we will see how often it gets ridden. Perhaps the old thinking, long climbs on trainers is just boring. Is just dead now. Maybe that's not true. A few other little bits and pieces that caught my eye. Man, those sunflowers are big. They are absolutely enormous. I mean, they're bigger than the riders, for goodness sake.
You can get some traditional iconic TDF shots, though. You can put your camera 0 on Mac and PC and then move your camera around and get the through the sunflower shot. You know that sunflower shot. Who was it? Was it Graham Watson, the photographer who's always doing those shots? That kind of shot. You can do that in Zwift, which I do like.
Well, maybe that's why the sunflowers are so enormous. I mean, I'm not complaining about it. It's just, God, they're big. They're just huge. Nathan, as one of our American friends, does it make you want to ride in France badly?
Actually, it definitely had a different feel. I was, this is one of the best looking courses, in my opinion. This might be my new favorite course for the time being. I mean, I've been on Watopia for a really, really long time, and Watopia is really cool. It's imaginary place. So you can do lots of different cool things, but this is a very beautiful country, obviously, and really, really liked all of the scenery, and definitely made it, I don't know, like really attractive to ride. I was really focused though, because I was trying to stay with the lead group and all the things I was doing. I'm the competitive side of me, but it made it easier. That's for sure too.
Yeah. Did you know, boys, France is the most visited country in the entire world?
Wow.
No, I did not know that. Wow.
There you go. They stand back.
Well, we'll have to see if we get the similar thing on Zwift.
Well, yeah, there you go. Yeah, will it be the most visited world? Indeed.
Well, Richmond's out there on Zwift, so something has to be. Oh, actually, here's a side topic. Did we see the poll on Zwift Riders the other day asking which was the least favorite course? New York won by a landslide. Ooh.
Yeah, I know people really well, not everybody, but quite a lot of people really don't like New York. It's always foxed me a bit. That I have to say, it's not one of my favorites. I generally don't choose it given an option. Anyway, back to France. Looking like on or about August 10th, when it gets opened up to the common herd, to the great unwashed, to the paying subscribers, finally get a chance to select France on calendar rotation from August the 10th-ish onwards. I was wondering why, and then of course I worked it out. I mean, they've got to strip all the assets out, haven't they? They've got to de-tourify Watopia. And I guess, so all the banners and stuff, I mean, that looks like quite a lot of work in kind of artist game design recoding terms, Shane, I think, properly.
Yeah, look, at the Tour Down Under a few years back, Peter Sagan, after he won the stage, hung around at the end and helped them wrap up the banners and things like that. It was a great media PR shot. It was fantastic to see. It was it's voted one of the most, was the best PR stunt or something like that. But it was legit. Sagan is a nice guy, and he did hang around to help them tidy up. So I reckon every one of these riders who are riding the virtual Tour de France should be sat down to recode and everything, and just help out a little bit so we can all go and ride the course.
Well, it's a great idea. I'm not sure I trust most World Tour riders with recoding anything at all, actually. Sorry, World Tour riders. I know you're all very good at riding bikes, but many other things you're not very good at. I mean, it's kind of got to be de-rigged, Nathan, hasn't it? Like de-rigging a real race, I guess.
I wonder if the way they set up the assets, because it might just be a couple of clicks of a button.
Well, you'd hope it had been designed to be a fast de-rig, yeah.
Yeah, because I mean, some of the things a lot of times to be able to remove assets and put other assets on, it depends on the way it was built. It might just be a couple box ticks or a couple lines of script that say load or don't load these assets.
Yeah. Anyway, we do at least have a fairly strong rumored date for that, and I think many people will be looking forward to it. But of course, we have stages 5 and 6 still to race, and we'll be talking about the racing aspect of the new world lower down the show, and more on that later still to come. But first, just let's get a little bit of insider insight on the bigger picture. I mean, this is without doubt Zwift's biggest ever marketing event. So I spoke to somebody very senior in marketing just to get some perspective. Well, welcome to the Zwiftcast to James Lalonde, a grand fromage in marketing in Zwift. Hello, James.
Hi there, Simon.
As we have a marketing expert on the podcast, let's go headlong deep into some marketing rabbit holes as we examine just how big this deal with ASO is for Zwift. Most listeners probably won't have heard of the term. The term is media value. Just start, James, by explaining exactly what media value is.
Media value, it's often referred to as earned media value, right? And it's basically exposure for a brand or, for a product that's shared or promoted by somebody else or like a third party without putting dollars behind it to promote. So, it could be something about a brand or a product that's shared by somebody on social media or an article that a journalist writes. I'm sure you, Simon, and many of the listeners here have contributed to a company's media value at some point, right? What road bike are you riding today?
That would probably be my Pinarello.
I take a photo of your bike, you post it on social, and you tag Pinarello. That right there is example of you providing brand media value to Pinarello. It's promotion of something by somebody who's doing that promotion on their own without being incentivized by the brand. On the other hand, and in comparison, you have owned and paid media too. And just to kind of round out the explanation, owned media is something that comes directly from the brands. These are marketing channels that the brands have complete control over: email, websites, brand-owned channels, and so forth. And then the other example that I'll just highlight very quickly is paid media. And in short, this is putting money behind marketing to boost content. So things like sponsored social media posts or banner ads that you might see when you go to a website, advertisements on the front end of YouTube videos. This is all, a very fine-tuned science. And even at Zwift, we put a lot of support or paid media support behind content. We have a very talented performance marketing team to look after that.
Earned media value, I think, is generally perceived by the consumer to be perhaps of higher value than paid, and even better, earned media value when it is so relevant to the product and the brand. I mean, it looks to me as though the virtual TDF is about as good as it gets for a brand like Zwift. Would that be accurate?
Yeah, it's accurate. I mean, you can't really get much better than working with the most famous cycling race in the world, right?
Absolutely, and you're there by dint. An awful lot of this media value is earned. Journalists are writing about this because they're interested. At the end of this, James, will Zwift ever be able to quantify the media value that's been earned by this project?
There really isn't a consistent way to really measure or calculate the value, to be honest. I mean, there are some models out there that can be used, certain formulas that can calculate things like reach and conversion and impressions. But honestly, I think we'd have to devote an entire show to that conversation. We can also look at broadcast viewership numbers to get a good idea of how interested the general public might be in, the race or the virtual Tour de France itself. We can look at things like sentiment from the community to generally gauge if something is resonating with the community and fans of the brand. And also look at things like registration and participation numbers for events like the Étape de Tour de France, which is happening in conjunction with the virtual Tour de France.
I mean, lots of ways to slice and dice and quantify different aspects, I guess. But I guess probably the very simplest metric is, is this going to put more bums on saddles and create more subscribers? I mean, is that too brutal? Is that too crude a measure?
Yeah, I think we'd expect more bums on saddles. And, I think the thing is, like, you and we know Zwift very well, right? We're riding Zwift day in and day out. And a lot of the listeners on this show know Zwift very well. And you have a loyal following. And, as much as Zwift has grown over the past several years, we now have customers in 190 different countries. There are still people who have not heard of Zwift. And so, the opportunity to work with somebody like the ASO, of course, ASO being the owner of the Tour de France, this is the most famous and the most recognized race in the world for over 100 years. It's incredible. And, there will be a greater awareness for Zwift at the end of this month than there was at the beginning. I think the other thing too is it's a lot of it has to do with the time of year that it is, right? When you have most of these very passionate kind of diehard cycling fans who are really tuned into racing, they're glued to the in real life Tour de France this time of year, typically. And so because the in real life tour has been pushed, this virtual version is now incredibly relevant. So not only are we reaching people who have never heard of Zwift, we're reaching people who I think have heard of Zwift, but maybe haven't ridden in Watopia. Yeah, hopefully that paints the picture of what we're doing here.
Yeah, I mean, I think what that paints a picture of is if you guys in marketing, guys and girls in marketing, sat down and said, what would be our number one dream? What would be the biggest possible marketing event or series of events that Zwift could possibly dream up to the best possible advantage? I think you'd probably end up with this, wouldn't you?
In terms of what we've done at the company and our evolution and how we've grown, this certainly was the next step, especially if you look back at the significant onboarding of pro athletes and teams over the past couple of years, and more particular in the past couple of months. And we hosted the Tour for All Pro Race Series in early May. It was just the next natural step. It may not have happened as early as this year, but considering the circumstances that we're in, with the Tour again being delayed and pushed to later in the year into September, it was the opportunity that existed at the time.
Yeah. Given the significance of this, James, and its importance, and you know, its kind of dream nature, if you like, are you nervous?
Not so much, to be honest. And I delayed there because, you know,
I mean, so far so good. To be fair, so far
other than sweating through my T-shirt during our chat right now. No, you know, we're through the first weekend of racing, right? Yeah. Which is, it's always the time when the nerves are riding extremely high because you're going into it, right? But a lot of the work on the back end had been developed, and we have an exceptionally capable team behind us at Zwift. And you see the progress being made, right? Like when you first approach the project and it's kind of chaotic and you start to really pull things in together in a structured format, and you start working cross-functionally with these teams, and you're having these daily meetings throughout the week, you start seeing the project be built, and then you launch, right? And then you have a week before the race begins, which is the case that we were in. You get through that first race weekend, some of the kinks get worked out, you know, the race being relatively smooth. Sure, you see things on the back end that, you know, may have been slight disruptions or little hurdles to overcome, but for the majority of people who are tuning into that broadcast, they're completely unaware. So now that we're through the first weekend, far less nervous going into this second weekend of racing.
Yeah. Okay, James. Well, listen, this has been an extremely interesting conversation. Some real good insight there into how much this means to marketing for Zwift, which you know everybody can fully understand, and everybody who supports Zwift. You know, we on the podcast, when all is said and done, we're fanboys. Everybody who supports Zwift supports this project because we know it's going to bring great benefits to the platform and ultimately subscribers. So, on behalf of the whole community, can I wish you and the team all the very best with the remainder of the events and the rest of the racing. And thanks very much for your time.
Thank you very much, Simon. Appreciate the time. Have a nice day.
Okay, as we were discussing earlier, parts of the Utopia world we know and love so well have been redressed for the tour. And with some new added audio during racing, it's conjured up a very, very good atmosphere. The banners and gantries and excited spectators definitely work towards a real race atmosphere. And nothing quite says bike race that more than painted words and slogans on the roads. And here the Zwift artists have also delivered. Having said that, some of the slogans are definitely on the quirky side. So we're going to play one of our little games, boys. I know how you look forward to these.
Oh boy.
I've picked a few of the slogans and we're going to give them a score out of 10. But hey, this is Le Tour, so we're doing it in French. I know you two have diligently done your homework, and I know, Nathan, your love for and mastery of the French language is uncompared. Either that or you've got Google Translate open. Anyway, you've learned, I'm hoping, 1 to 10 in French. So, Shane, you're in charge of recording and adding up the scores because, you know, you do all that tech stuff and I can't be bothered. And we want a winner, which will be the yellow jersey for the best road paint slogan, and a loser, the Lanterne Rouge, for what we think is the worst road paint slogan. So, are you ready? Here we go. So I want a score in French, and Shane, you're keeping score, and I'll give my score first. So, slogan number 1. Allez, allez. Well, I'm going to give that 10 points, because it's an absolute classic and hard to go wrong. 10 points for me. Shane, combien de points?
10 for sorry, 10. We're in French. Allez, which is it the literal translation is come on?
10, oui. Yeah. Basically, yeah. It means come on. Actually, now, you might like to know this. I went to an Italian race once, and the Italian version of it is die. So you stand at the top of a climb. No, you stand at the top of a climb, and there's like 5,000 people going die. And when it really threw me the first time I heard it, as you can possibly imagine. Anyway, back on topic. How many points for allez, allez, which, as you rightly say, means come on.
I'm going to sit on the fence. Sank.
Not very generous. Nathan.
I'll go with now. How are you? So D, I pronounce this D. But maybe of course,
Dece.
Okay.
Oui.
Yeah, I definitely give a 10 on that. I mean, Dece for sure.
Okay.
No, well, I think he's right. You know, it's a classic. Okay, number 2. We got to speed this up. What's? There's a bit of Zwiftery going on there, but it's hardly a classic. I'm going to go with a Sank for that.
On.
Yeah, about right, probably. I was being generous. Nathan?
Quatre.
I've got the translation in English and French and what it sounds like in Aussie English. So I've got to do the.
Well, Nathan went with quatre.
Yes.
Quatre.
Which is 4. Okay, moving this on. Number 3, number 3. Bag some bragging rights. I am not a fan of this one.
Bags.
I must confess, I am not a fan of that. I'm going to give that 2 points. Shane.
I'm going with trois.
Trois. Nathan.
Yeah, duh. Yeah.
You've got to be working on your pronunciation. Okay. All right.
That just sounds like duh. I'm sorry.
Yeah, it does. Yeah. The next one, keep strong and climb on. Again, not impressing me, this one, I'm afraid. Well, actually, I'm saving my 1 point for one coming up. I'll give that 2.
Okay. My spreadsheet's going well here. I like it. This is a motivational message, and this is what I need up the climb, especially when I'm suffering. So this one gets wheat. Is that?
Very well done.
Okay, good. There we go. Good. That's
surprised.
Tra? Is that how I say?
Trois.
Yep.
Okay.
Trois.
Nathan's French lessons continue. This is the one that gets 1 point for me. 90% mental, 10% legs.
Did we skip one?
I'd flip that the other way. If it was.
Yeah, absolutely. Shane, go.
Hang on, did we get a score from you on that time? And I haven't recorded one.
1 point.
That's your. Okay. I like it, but the math is out, so that gets to me. That gets trois.
Okay, Nathan.
Set.
Got
Yeah.
pronunciation.
Ooh, there we
Got
go.
pronunciation. Okay. Okay, and finally, hammer time, not cramp time. Again, sorry, Zwift artists. I'm not much of a fan of that one. 2 points.
Hang on, I'm doing 2 things here. I'm converting from English to Aussie to French, and then having to rate these myself. So this was hammer time, not cramp time.
Yeah.
Oh, look, there's a pending lawsuit there from MC Hammer. This gets 0 from me.
0. Oh, okay. Harsh. Nathan.
Sank. Okay.
Sank.
There's
Okay.
no long A there. What is that?
It's French. All right. Okay. Well, we've stumbled.
But no,
to the
ride
end
up.
of
That was a hill. Did we skip that one? Ride up. That was a hill.
Ride up. Yeah, I thought things were stretching out a bit on this item. So
We can still add it. It's there on the
That's
spreadsheet.
my un.
Okay.
okay. All right. We'll go back at Nathan's special request. We will put in the one that was on the script as well, which is called Ride Up. And how many was that for you, Nathan?
That's an un. That's un.
That's an okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, the thing is, it's on a hill, so obviously you're going to ride up. I am likewise going to give that just 1 point. Okay. Well, I think we finally stumbled to the end of that item, and Shane has been furiously calculating the mathematical genius that is cheeky llama. The maillot jaune is Shane.
Alice, come on. We have a winner.
Allez. That's one I thought it might do. And the Lanterne Rouge.
Yeah, right up a hill.
Yeah, right up.
Not creative.
Most obvious statement in the world.
Yeah, right. Sorry, right up. Yes.
You're really,
Right up
I'm
the hill.
on a hill. Thanks for the reminder. I'm Mount Ventoux. That I need to ride up.
They need to remind people that you can do it. You press down to ride down a hill. See, that's informative. That'd be better. 3 kilometers down. Incentivize people to turn around and go the other way. Really take them away from that carrot at the top.
Okay. Well, you can't win them all. Actually, I had a little bit of a soft spot for Ride Up because at least it's play on words on Ride On. But anyway, yeah, Ride Up on a hill is like, yeah. Thanks, Captain Obvious. Anyway, just a bit of fun. The race atmosphere that Zwift has conjured is really good, and so far the racing itself has also been really good. We've seen fields break up pretty quickly, which I really like because it means the racing is just basically easier to follow for viewers. We've also seen a number of real advances in the broadcast tools, and we'll get to them shortly. But first, let's talk to a racer. Freddie Ovett races for Israel's startup nation, the pretty much nailed-on destination, we think, of Chris Froome next year. And it's a team which has really, really embraced Zwift racing. And no rider's perhaps embraced it more fully than Freddie. He's Zwifted hard through lockdown, and he's started every race setting his sights firmly on the win. I recorded this
one of the stars, actually, one of the definite stars of the first two stages of the Tour Virtuel, and that's Freddie Ovett. Hey, Freddie.
Simon, thanks for having me.
Very welcome. Now, listen, you have really taken to Zwift. Was that a lockdown thing? Being
based in Girona, Spain, didn't have a choice. You know, there wasn't anything else to do training-wise apart from sitting on your turbo trainer. And as I found in the first few weeks, Zwift made that a hell of a lot easier. Then I got on Zwift and somehow got involved in a race and sort of looked at the data after and was like, well, this is actually a great way to get some decent work done.
A lot of pro riders have taken up Zwift more out of a sense of duty, I think, and just like you say, to do something during that terrible period that we've been through. But you seem to have taken it up and actually really begun to enjoy it. Is that fair to say?
Oh yeah, I love it, to be fair. Yeah, and I think a lot of people are almost, pros are kind of embarrassed to say that they enjoy doing it because there's a bit of a stigma that Zwift, you know, it's not like outside, of course, and of course it's not. You know, they're completely two separate things, but it doesn't mean that you can't use it to get benefit where we need to. I'm a guy that just loves to train. I'm kind of a student of myself, improving physically, and I saw Zwift as a great vehicle to do that.
You've been promoted up to the World Tour team, which is the top rank for the virtual TDF. Do you think in part, Freddie, that was because you had been shining in races on the Zwift platform, or did the coaches just look at your numbers and say, we think this is going to be the guys to be part of our team?
If you're on the development team of the World Tour team, you are allowed to race with the World Tour team in non-World Tour races. And I've already done that. I raced with the World Tour team at Tour of Rwanda this year. So that there is that already accepted crossover. Yeah, I think it was clear to everyone that I was doing a lot of Zwift and doing quite well at it. And at Israel, then I think they're like, okay, he likes it, he's good at it. And if we've got to do it, then it would be silly for us not to include him. There's definitely a certain section of our team that has a keen interest in Zwift. Yes, and that's continuing on with the virtual Tour de France currently.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's pretty healthy for a team, don't you? I mean, you know, like as you've said, and as we all acknowledge, you know, Zwift racing is not the same as real life racing. Of course, it isn't, but there are benefits to be had there. And, you know, reading between the lines, some teams are maybe not quite as receptive to the things that Zwift may be able to offer as Israel have been. I mean, do you get a real sense of that from the team?
The problem that people is making the comparison between real life racing. That just has to stop because it's not ever going to be anywhere near the same thing. They're almost different sports. As soon as that comparison is stopped, I think it opens a lot of doors mentally for you to enjoy the platform and get the most out of it for what it is. I'm thankful that Israel are so open to it because there's quite a lot of teams that haven't. I think that would have made the lockdown period, for example, very difficult for them.
We often hear from commentators, and certainly it's kind of, you know, orthodoxy in the Zwift community that Zwift is so different from real life racing that Zwift experience really does count for a lot in the virtual races. Do you buy into that, Freddie? Do you think that really is true?
I don't actually. Quite annoying sometimes when a lot of people kind of like, he's only good because he knows Zwift, because he's done a lot of Zwift racing. And personally, I'm not sure about other people, but I don't find Zwift that complicated. It's quite straightforward. You stay towards the front, try not to get dropped. And then if you're at the finish, sprint. The power-ups that, you know, everyone makes a big deal as if they completely change everything, and they give a somewhat subtle boost, but that's it. And a lot of guys on the team have said, you know, how can we improve? I really have a hard time answering that question because I just find it quite straightforward. The start is always hard, and then it remains kind of hard the whole way. And if you can sprint at the end of a hard effort, then you're probably going to do quite well.
Well, I mean, it's sure working for you. I mean, does it give you a kick to drop Geraint Thomas and riders of that stature?
Not really. I mean, like I said, we can't really make the comparison because it's just two different things. But it is very cool to see these little avatars with, Mike Woods and Geraint Thomas,
behind you,
behind me, whatever. Yeah, it's cool. It's fun. But I'm definitely not reading too much into it. These are very, very, very established pros that have done a lot outside, and I'm just trying to make my way up.
You've certainly lit up the racing that I've watched so far. Penultimate question. We're both in Girona, and you quite often post rides to Strava, and you're currently the KOM on a very well-known climb, or you were last time I checked.
I don't think I am anymore.
This is a climb called El Argels, for people who don't know. It's a little 20-minute effort just on the edge of town. And as you've just hinted at, actually, it's probably one of the most fiercely contested segments on Strava anywhere in the world because of just the sheer number of World Tour pro riders based here. My question was, there must be a few riders looking to knock you off the perch, but looks like it's already happened. Are you going to go out and get it back?
The time's so fast now that you need guys helping you, and you need the wind to be perfect. George Bennett's gone really fast, and I'm not sure I need to gather motivation later in the season to ring in some support and go after it. But I enjoy Strava like I do kind of Zwift, when you're feeling good and just sort of going all out on a climb or a segment and comparing yourself is quite fun.
I shall keep a close eye on that leaderboard. Finally, last question. I mean, I'm old enough to remember your dad, the great Steve Ovett, the middle distance runner whose intense rivalry with Seb Go absolutely captivated the world in the 1980s. I mean, one thing, fella, you've got some good genes there. They say if you want to be a good athlete, first choose your parents. So, I mean, that's pretty helpful. But does your dad take a keen interest in your cycling career?
Yeah, he's my biggest fan. But we speak daily about how I'm going and whether it's on Zwift or my training or my upcoming races. I'm all he cares about when it comes to cycling, which is sweet. But no, he's fantastic, and I value his input to everything he says about training, athletic performance. Obviously, it's a different sport, but at the end of the day, he was an athlete his whole life at the highest of the high level, so he knows what's needed to be done. Yeah, I've bought into that ever since I was a young kid. Yeah, I appreciate him greatly.
No, I bet you do, and I bet he's got some very sage words of advice. Freddie, it's been a delight watching you in the Tour. You're always a really, really great rider to watch when you race on Zwift. Good luck, not only in any stages you're still going to complete on the Tour Virtuel, but for the rest of the season.
Thanks, I appreciate it. Yeah, hopefully I can get a cheeky win on Sunday. I'll be going for it. So let's see.
Well, that was timely, wasn't it? Very prescient of yours truly there. I recorded that interview before Freddie stormed to victory in stage 4. Now, actually, it wasn't that prescient because I picked Freddie out to interview. One, because I've got a kind of bit of a personal connection with him. I helped him get set up on his Zwift here in Girona just a little bit. And 2, I've been watching him during the racing, and he was always going to win a stage. I mean, he is just immensely strong. And he said during that interview, Nathan, he felt that power-ups count for little. As far as he's concerned, it's just all about the power through the pedals. Power-ups are to Freddie at least the most minor of marginal gains, or so he claims, but I did notice that he crossed the line on stage 4 with a power-up engaged. So I think he's sort of got a point with power-ups and World Tour pro riders. They're so powerful, so strong, these guys. Does a little power-up really make a difference? Freddie says no. I mean, I think he's probably seeking to make a broader point there because he certainly deployed a power-up to help him cross the line. But that broader point, Nathan, these guys and girls, they are just so incredibly powerful that a little bit of a feather is not going to make any difference to them.
I've said it over and over again. I'll say it again. Do you want to get rid of crosswinds? Do you want to get rid of cornering? Do you want to get rid of all the other things that make random number games happen and tactics in real life racing? No. Do you just want a Watt Fest? No. And so you're adding things that help you simulate some sort of tactic, some sort of RNG. Now, is this the best RNG? I still would say no. I still would say that there's a much better way to employ gamification, or if you want to call it sporting, if you don't like the word gamification, game theory to this world, then we could do it another way. But I think the Aero Power Up by far is the strongest power up in a sprint situation, and you get a huge advantage from it. Somebody who is putting out 13.3 watts per kilogram for 15 seconds, 11.7 for 30, and a 5.1 average throughout the stage 4 of the Tour de France, most likely doesn't have to worry about power-ups too much, although they do make a big difference, I think. But that man, if you look at the comparison between himself, Valgren in third, Craddock in fourth there, his numbers are above and beyond them, and he's just showing crazy fitness. So yeah, power-ups matter, but at the same time, the dude's just really strong.
I think he was being kind of sort of deliberately controversial to illustrate another point he made very clearly, both in his interview with me and actually also in his interview post-match when he won stage 4, Shane. And this was, I think the words he used are, we need to stop the comparison between Zwift racing and in real life racing. They are two completely different things. He's a bright lad, is Freddie. And that, again, I think was a really, really interesting point he made there. Let's just quit with the comparisons. These are two different things.
For sure. I think Jonathan Vaughters said it right on Twitter, which was misconstrued in a number of ways, as Twitter always is. I think Vaughters said that the physiological demands of Zwift racing is so very different to outdoor racing. He said it was more akin to running, but I guess that's a little weird. It's not quite. But he did make a very good point that we've known for years and years and years. Zwift racing is like a hard criterion, which is on from the gun, cross between a time trial. There is no coasting, and it is on, which is very different to racing outdoors. So I think Zwift racing itself, what we're seeing people win here is Zwift races. We're not seeing them win replications of the Tour de France. It's not a 6-hour ride, and I've seen Eric Min say this in a number of interviews this week. They're winning these Zwift races up against the same people who ride the Tour de France stages and Tour de France events.
Yes.
So it needs to stand alone. If you're a champion Zwift racer, you're a champion Zwift racer. Are you going to be good outdoors? Well, it's a different thing. I've said to a number of people this week that it's very feasible to win a Zwift race blindfolded. If you were to jump on a bike, put a blindfold on and ride as hard as you can, there's a high chance you'll win. Try that outdoors. It ain't going to work. So there's your difference right there. So there's a lot of things missing from indoor racing, but it's not to say it's missing from it being a replica of outdoors. We just need to acknowledge what it is. And I think Freddie's got it on the money, totally on the money. He knows obviously how to ride damn fast outdoors. He knows how to ride damn fast indoors. And he acknowledges that they're two very different things. It's a message that the hardcore Zwifters, I guess, and the traditionalists will always fight against or fight against each other with. It's a message I think we need to respect a little more, that Zwifting is Zwifting and the demands are very different.
Yeah, it's true, and I think he makes the point exceptionally well. Of course, where it gets kind of muddy and confusing is then when you have a series of Zwift races which are branded as the Virtuel Tour de France. But come on, guys. I mean, who would not do that given the opportunity, either if you are ASO or much more strongly if you are Zwift? Of course, you're not going to miss the opportunity to brand a series of races in a time when there's no racing in real life as the virtual Tour de France. I mean, of course you are. Of course you are. And to suggest that is strongly suggesting equivalence between Zwift racing and real life racing is just not the case. As you said, Shane, Eric himself has said this. Thanks, Max. Your contribution was timely, and he's right. He agrees, doesn't he?
There's people in the background here agreeing with what I'm saying. Yep, but there's even fighting in this household about what's real and what's not.
Max agrees. Max is right with us there. Okay, let's move on a little bit to the innovations in coverage. I mean, I think replays are looking way, way, way slicker, though you might not need a 3-angle replay on a meaningless sprint when the riders are already through the Flamme Rouge. and you're cutting away from the race to show that replay. But never mind, that's just a minor niggle. The replays themselves are really, really much improved. The idea of ghosting the rest of the peloton to show a highlighted rider in conjunction with a live shot, I think that's been a really welcome development too. Particularly when it comes with the relevant stats, which they've managed to get right most of the time, actually. And the quality of the actual live shots of the riders at home is also hugely, hugely improved. Properly framed, properly streamed, and absolutely now definitely add real value to the coverage. Nathan, obviously, you're the go-to guy on this. And there are a few other innovations as well. I mean, I think I've listed the three there that perhaps most people have noticed most often. Zwift really has tried hard here.
Yeah, they've done a really good job as far as grabbing the real life shots. I think that the broadcast tools look pretty amazing. I've taken a look at some of them and hopefully be able to employ them into some of the ZCL streams soon. Definitely what some of the feedback from the community is like seeing the ways in which identification, rider numbers, understanding draft, stuff like that has been really cool. And we are looking at re-upping test labs on Tuesday. So from a community perspective and broadcasting, we're really hoping that a lot of this will come down the line. I am getting a lot of feedback about finishes and sprints.
Yes, well, that's on that was on our script for separate discussion. So let's just park that thought there. But you are, as far as you know, going to get access to some or all of these broadcast tools, are you, or have you maybe not been told yet?
I have how do I answer that question? I can see them. I'm not sure about putting them out there. So, yeah, I definitely see them and am definitely wanting to do stuff with them. I think that's where test labs and good communication across to all the community needs to be important, though. So,
yeah. Shane, a couple of kind of under the hood, below the radar things that we know are going on, but we just don't have any detail on or much detail on. We know they're tweaking the draft algorithm. They've said they are, and we know they've been mucking about with it in selected events prior to the virtual Tour de France. We just don't know how. I really wish we did, didn't you? Don't you?
Yeah, look, more information would be a good thing here because you wouldn't want to spend a lot of time getting to know the platform, knowing the ins and outs, and getting an edge, and then to find out on race day something has changed. I don't think there's any need for them to be secretive here because people are screaming for updates and improvements in progress. So seeing messages such as, we've changed something, but we're not telling, that's not really going to go down well with anyone. I think subscribers to Zwift always want to know what's new for them, and any content that I produce showcasing what's new for everyone does really well. So it's only a positive thing if Zwift can tell us what has actually changed here. It's not hiding, it's not going to help. It's only going to hinder everything and make people a little suspicious of what actually has changed, or blame that for maybe failure, or maybe attribute that to success. We just don't know without the information.
Yeah, no, it's true. I mean, maybe they've felt it. They need to keep this quiet because it would perhaps give some competitive advantage somewhere. But you know what? I mean, in the end, this is not serious racing, because in the end, it's a big charity project. So if they are tweaking the draft, and we're pretty sure they are, it probably would be nice to know a little bit more about that, because we care about these things, Zwifters. We really do. Okay, lastly, as Nathan hinted at there, the finishers. Credit where it's due to Zwift. The improvement in the broadcast over several months, and particularly the big step up to the virtual Tour de France has been radical. I mean, the broadcasters are getting better all the time, and they've stepped up a big step to me with the virtual Tour de France. But the finishers, I'm afraid, are still not perfect, or I'm not even sure they're optimal, actually. I mean, I'm not certain the correct camera angles are quite there yet. And there's some ferociously complex stuff to deal with here too. I mean, that was absolutely exemplified in stage 2, the one that Freddie Ovett was adjudged not to have won. He was convinced he had won that. And some of the finish line shots seemed to agree. But Shane, this is hard stuff, isn't it? Because not everybody is seeing exactly the same thing.
Yeah.
Or maybe they are in the tour. I don't know. I mean, try to keep this simple because it is terribly complicated.
It's the money shot, and this is a problem. Look, a photo finish of a race is what people want to see. They want to analyze, they want to debate, they want to dispute, and it's from those shots that race results are taken in real life. That's the thing. Not the transponders, they're secondary. It's that finish line shot taken at 1,000 frames a second that people go, okay, that's clearly the winner, and they zoom right in. But the problem with virtual racing is that every racer, every camera angle is computing its own version of reality in real time. So there's not just one reality, there are hundreds of realities. And that reality is different depending on which machine you're on. So it's kind of like what I call Schrodinger's Zwift. At the end of a race, you don't know whether you've won or not or both until the results on the server are observed, and then you know. Look, it's complicated, and that's a problem because trying to explain that to a non-technical person why who they saw cross the line first isn't the winner, there's no easy way to explain it other than there's multiple realities. It's computed, there's lag, there's delay, there's a number of factors involved. It's a hard one because we want instant results because that's what we see out in the real Tour de France. We see Caleb Ewan's wheel. I'll go for an Aussie. We see that just ahead of everybody else. And then we zoom right in. Yep, we've confirmed it. Cool. Within seconds. And then we wait for the official results. That's what watching racing is all about. We want to see that final shot. It not being there instantly at the end is kind of strange. Improvements on that would be good. Yes.
Yeah, I mean, I think we need to accept it. It is work in progress, but it's quite a big chunk of a big chunk of the jigsaw missing. Nathan, I thought they did quite well in coverage on the stage 2 finish, really, in that they just didn't dwell on the fact that it looked like the guy who they said hadn't won had in fact won. They did kind of fudge over that and draw a bit of a veil over it by not repeating too many of the shots that seemed to show that Freddie had won, which I guess is probably the right thing to do in these circumstances. I mean, do you have difficulty with finishes on ZCL races?
A lot. This is definitely something that needs to be looked at. There's a lot of theories in the community right now about it. WTRL, so the event organizers have been seeing this for a really long time. Those who are broadcasting it, and they've got a lot of different theories. WTRL seems to lean toward, because they do so much thing with timing and stopwatches, and they're doing the TTT and everything, that it's a stopwatch issue actually, that it actually has to do with when the time starts. For the riders. Others think that it has more to do with the fact that everybody's at different tick rates with the servers. And I also, maybe Zwift is still trying to figure out that whole side of things as well. Where is this issue lie? And then your thing about just staying away from the finish lines, maybe there's something behind that because of that.
Yeah. No, they are tricky. I don't think there's any doubt about that.
Well, we got to go back to original Jarvis now at this point too. Why, and then when events were made, what they were built on, and all of that, right? We have to go back to, and I think Shane, you've said this a lot of times, that like originally events weren't even a part of the game. And then when they got written into the game, how was the stopwatch started, and how was the finish line predicted, and all that kind of stuff. And was it originally built for esports? No, it was built for training. And then people started racing on it out of the community, and out of a community project, events came out, And so I think, having to, after you program a lot of things, having to go backwards is very difficult.
Yeah. Tricky one. Work still to do there. Not that it's detracted from the enjoyment of the race, because in the end they've decided that there is a result, and that's the result that's going to stand. So fine. We have a winner. It may not look like the winner won sometimes, but that's what we've got for now. So it's kind of fine for now. But as I think all three of us, and probably a number of people inside Zwift also know, that probably needs some work if this really is to develop as a totally credible racing platform. Okay, well, just finally on this, this has become so normal now, it's actually barely worthy of comment, but the male-female parity is, of course, massively, massively welcome. I mean, it's just the right thing to do. and it's become so normal now that we don't even talk about it, which is right, really. I mean, of course, there should be equalised broadcast and equalised racing between the genders, and like I say, so normal now we don't even talk about it. But I do talk about it with ASO because, of course, that is not the case in IRL, and I had the chance to talk to ASO around about a week or so ago about why they decided to get involved and endorse and agree to and promote a virtual TDF. Welcome to the Zwiftcast to Julien Groupiel. Hello, Julien, you're from ASO.
Yes, hello, Simon. Nice to meet you.
And you too, in the strange way that we meet these days. Just to explain to my listeners your job at ASO, what do you do there?
So I'm the media director of ASO, so in charge of all the aspects linked to media, including television, the sales of TV rights, the production of the images of ASO, in charge also of all the digital aspects, so the website, mobile app, business development, and so on, the digital, and last but not least, all the communication area, including the social networks, press release, and so on and so on.
Wow. Okay, you're a powerful guy. So you're the right guy to ask this question. Why did ASO decide to become involved in a virtual Tour de France? I mean, the Tour is a tour, and the virtual tour is a very, very different thing.
Yeah, for different reasons. I would say that the first one is that we wanted to have something consistent in July linked to the Tour de France. Christian Prudhomme always says a month of July without any Tour de France is not a month of July. This is the first reason. The second one is that we wanted to create, a kind of charity project. So that was something important for us to build a charity project, and the virtual Tour de France is part of the charity project. And last but not least, we have always wanted to be creative, innovative, and for us, the virtual sport is something that we wanted to look into.
Well, they're very convincing reasons. The Tour is so special to cycling fans and so special to everybody with any kind of interest in cycling. And in fact, lots of people who only have an interest in cycling once a year. And it has an incredibly rich history and very strong traditions. Was this because of that? Was this a difficult decision?
No, it was not a difficult decision. We are facing what we all know. There was no other choice that to organize the real Tour de France at a different time. So that's the way it is. We need to adapt ourselves, and I think that was the right decision. Nevertheless, we wanted to do something in July, so that's why we are here for this virtual Tour de France, where we do expect it's going to be a big success.
Yep. Well, there's certainly a great deal of interest in it. I'm sure you had many approaches because there are a number of different virtual cycling platforms now. Was it always going to be Zwift?
To be honest, we had discussion with all the platforms. After days of discussion, Zwift appeared to us as the most consistent platform, and the riders are used to Zwift. They have a big number of subscribers. They are powerful. We had a good relationship with Eric and all the teams. So it made the decision at the end, and we are very happy so far with all the job that has been done.
What level of interest have you seen from broadcasters, Julien, compared perhaps to an ordinary Tour de France? Is there as much enthusiasm?
Yeah, there are much enthusiasm. When you look at the figures, we get 20 broadcasters in 130 countries. So we are very, very happy of that. We charge broadcasters of the Tour de France. We will have also a coverage on the digital, for sure, on the Tour de France digital platform, on Zwift digital platform. Even the teams can have access to the live feed. So this is really something important. And I would say, that's clearly the point. And we do believe that for the broadcasters, this is important to get, I would say, fresh content. They have all broadcasted archive and so on, and they're still doing that in the month of July because this is the initial date of the Tour de France. But with the virtual Tour de France, we bring something which is fresh, new, and a bit different. So that was quite so far a good success in terms of TV distribution.
I guess one of the other major benefits of doing a virtual Tour de France is the level of participation on a contemporaneous basis that people will be able to do by doing the virtual l'étape. I've done the real l'étape 5 or 6 times, and it's a fantastic experience. But this makes it much easier to participate.
Yeah, I mean, this is something which has been key since the very beginning. There were the pro race for women and for men. And in the very beginning, we also said that we need to do something for the cycling community. I mean, we have a lot of people participating to l'Étape du Tour. L'Étape du Tour has been postponed also because it could not take place in July. So we are very enthusiastic with those 3 virtual l'Étape du Tour that we're going to set up with Zwift the same weekend as a pro race on the same route. And we do expect to have a lot of competitors, and this is good to animate the cycling community.
This year, of course, is completely exceptional. 2020, we hope we never see anything like it again. But the way that things have developed has happened in a number of interesting ways, and this is just one of them. How much thought will you give to doing this in 2021, 22, 23? Could this run in tandem with the real tour every year?
We need to look if the operation is going to be a success. So among the different criteria, the audience and the appealing of the fans would be something. The satisfaction also of the riders and our partners will be also something. The number of people participating to l'Étape du Tour virtual is also going to be something important. So first, let's deliver this month of July, and then we will have plenty of time to think about what could be the future. But we can imagine many things among pro race and amateur race.
Sure. I think it's very sensible, obviously, for everybody to see this as something of a test. One thing that's received a great deal of favourable coverage in the announcement, of course, is the complete parity between men and women. Now, given that the tour itself has not had parity previously, does this increase the pressure on ASO next year or the year after, Julien? I mean, having done it once, you might need to do it again.
To be honest, we do already organize quite a lot of women pro race. I mean, we have Flèche Wallonne, Liège-Bastogne-Liège, Paris-Roubaix. We're going to produce for the first time this year a live feed on Flèche Wallonne, a live feed on Liège-Bastogne-Liège. So we are totally involved in women cycling. This is for sure. Internally within ASO, we have set up group of reflection to think what we could do in a near future to organize maybe a women Tour de France. So that's something which is already on track. Of course, the situation of today has brought some delays in being able to put things in place, but that's something which is still in our mind and within our reflection within ASO.
Sure. Okay. Well, listen, final question. It would be unforgivable if I had such a powerful guy from ASO on the podcast without asking this question. We're all very much looking forward to the virtual Tour de France, of course. But July with no tour or a year with no tour, it just makes many, many people very, very sad, me included. Will it really take place in August, Julien? Are you absolutely confident?
I mean, we are working as the Tour de France will take place in September. The signal we have so far, is there. We are organizing ourselves. We, of course, will have to take some measure to protect the riders, to all the measures that we have to take. And then you never know. I mean, every day is passing, and we need to be cautious. We need to work with a lot of humility. But in our mind, within ASO, we are doing everything to organize a Tour de France at the end of August and within the month of September.
But I guess in some senses, there will be many other people involved in the decision, and it's not just your decision, is it really?
Exactly. The authorities, we are in daily discussion with the authorities and so on. So it's not going to be only our decision for sure, and we will take no risk for sure. Okay. Also.
Excellent. Thank you very much. That's been a very interesting and illuminating interview. Thank you very much indeed for your time. Well, some interesting stuff from the ASO there. I think they clearly feel pressure. Well, that's a statement of the obvious. They definitely feel pressure to do more for women's cycling. They were very quick to list the things that they were doing there. But I do think something like the virtual TDF is only going to increase that pressure, and that's probably a very, very, very good thing. That's it, boys, pretty much, actually. Time for our final thoughts. The participation rides, huge. And it was interesting that James Lalonde, the marketing guys from Zwift, one of the kind of indices of success
that they use, because there's lots of ways for them to define and measure and quantify success. But one of them, for sure, is the participation levels in the big associated rides like L'Étape du Tour for the virtual tour. Now, I did mine. Must say I have been riding outside a lot recently, mainly because the weather here is fantastic, and also because I did spend many, many, many weeks indoors. So I've probably ridden outside this summer more than I would do normally. But of course, the Étape du Tour dragged me inside, not kicking and screaming at all, actually. I was really looking forward to doing it. Air conditioning on full. I didn't go two fans Freddie set up. I do think he's two fans. I do think that's a cool setup, and I can see that catching on, can't you? I didn't go two fans Freddie, and I did sweat a lot, but I still really, really enjoyed it, as did, I think, 4,500 other people on the ride that I did. Shane, obviously, in Upside Down Land, it is winter with you, so easier for you to do them, I think. But to pull that number of people in from their default mode in July, which is riding outside, that is a hell of an achievement.
Yeah, look, Zwifters like new roads. That is a fact. And these are new roads, so the numbers are big. But not only the new roads, the redressed up Watopia the previous week, that was still very well attended. So these cornerstone, these keystone events are always so well attended. What do we have? The Tour of Watopia, that was huge. The Haute Route was massive.
Tour for All was good.
Tour for All, yeah, they just didn't nail it.
I think status events, Shane, I think is the big deal.
That's it. Now, for me, my motivation is to get on there and stream the first rides and talk everyone through it and showcase them. And the number of views that I get on my stream are well above my normal streams for just showing people, oh, look, here's my first ride through. If you're doing it in a few hours, I'm a few hours ahead or behind, depending where you are in the world. So they'll jump on and have a look at what's going on. People are just interested in new things. And that's the Zwifting thing all along, isn't it? We've had the appetite for something new all the way along. In the early days of Zwift, we were getting updates, and then they threw in a U-turn for us, and it turned our world twice as big. So this is one of these new roads. Everyone's excited. Jump on board, whether it's sunny outside or not. This is Zwift. And Zwift is not an alternative to outdoor riding. It's an accompaniment too. So, you can go road cycling or triathlon or gravel biking or jumping on Zwift. It's just, okay, there's a new Zwift thing. Okay, I'll do that today, regardless of what the weather's like. So it's good to see it being a thing and being such a big thing in this time of year.
Yeah. No, it's a real achievement being able to pull people indoors in July. Actually, that just reminded me, Nathan, Nathan saying gravel riding there. The one thing, as I was sweating copiously and trying to keep up with my little pack of 100 rendered riders on my L'Étape du Tour, the thing I did notice about the surroundings was what looks to be a ton of potential gravel rides in France.
Yep.
Have you noticed that, Nathan?
No.
Have you not? Okay, well, Shane is...
No, I did not know. But here's the thing. I want to say that I watched Shane's live stream, and I have a very different type of live stream. My head is down. Yeah. I am focused. Wattage.
I'm smelling the roses.
Look at this. And pushing zero, looking around. Check this out. And I'm like, what are we doing? How do we win? So, no, I didn't notice the gravel road.
Well, Shane, as you did it at tourist pace, I'll come to you on this one. There just looked to be loads and loads of bits of gravel intersecting with the tarmac. And perhaps we should have talked about this at the top of the show. I mean, the scope for expansion of France is obviously enormous, but it looks like gravel might be prioritised.
I think we see that on a few other courses. The flat desert course on Zwift has a few side roads that lead to nowhere. Yeah. I think Zwift are building out worlds that gives them the opportunity to just build out courses that could really open up things, side routes or alternate descents. And then from there, imagine what the megaplex would be if we have even more ways to ride around the different worlds. It would be huge. Not quite sure what they'll do with them, though. A few of those dirt roads on the new France map do just loop back around. There's only a few hundred meters, but the potential is there for them just to give us a little turn off this way to go, gravel exploring. That would be super cool. And yes, I was what I would call rubbernecking on lap 1 of the France map. I was looking sideways and looking sideways and looking sideways again, and I did spot those sheep on the beach. What else do we have? The just the iconic the windmills, the building.
Yeah.
Brilliant stuff to look around for. So Yeah, I liked it. So yeah, with Nathan's stream though, Nathan is up the front and head down, and that is something that is very similar to real life racing. I've ridden up many mountain passes or raced up many mountain passes, and you don't see a thing. But then when you go to tourist pace, it's so much nicer. So you can do the same on Zwift.
Yeah.
You know what's interesting too is when I'm up at the front, I look around and like it feels just like, for me at least, for coming from the gaming world, it feels just like being in an Apex Predator lobby or a top end PUBG, because like everyone around you is a streamer that you know who's streaming the race, and you're going head to head with them to the line. It's actually really cool that everybody's kind of like, you know, everybody who's around you and who's who in the front end of the pack. So that was pretty awesome.
Yeah. Well, I found the same thing at a slightly different level, obviously, but I found the same thing in the because we're all creatures of habit, aren't we? So the attack ride that I did, like I say, over 4,000 riders, but still there were names there that were familiar to me because, you know, I think everybody is to an extent a creature of habit, and you tend to pick the times at which you ride on a fairly regular basis. And so a lot of my kind of regular names cropped up, which is always really, really nice to see. Okay, well, that then is that. High summer here, deep winter there. Shane, what's rocking your world for the next August? Of course, such a holiday month here. Obviously, not there.
Yeah, Melbourne, which is we're at arm's length from Melbourne here in Ballarat, where I live, has gone into lockdown version 2.
Yeah, I noticed that.
And Victoria has been locked out of every other state. Yeah, things aren't good. So I'm just doing my best to steer clear of anybody from Melbourne. That's about all at the moment. Lots of indoor riding though. But yesterday was the typically the coldest day of the year here. So we're on the up. But I'm already over winter now. And I'm sort of, if I'm over it already, we've got another half of that to go again before the weather starts warming up. So good time to get on Zwift. I'm just sort of recovering today. Mont Ventoux is coming up this weekend. That's going to be long. So yeah, just preparing for that.
Yeah, I mean, you're definitely going to ride that.
Oh yeah. 3 p.m. Saturday, our time is the very first event. So I'll be on live streaming that across all the platforms that I'm streaming on, just to show people what it's all about. I'm really keen to know. We have some numbers. Sorry, just to drag this one on. We have some numbers going up.
No.
The watts per kilo was at 3.3 watts per kilo. Gets you up in an hour, assuming depending on what equipment you've got. So 1 hour, 3.3 or thereabouts watts per kilo up to Zwift. Mont Ventoux, what do we aim for? Or is it an hour and a half?
Casey Shum. Shum was streaming. I saw him last night. He told me straight. He said, Nathan, if you want to go do it, 3.5 for 93 minutes. That's what he told me.
There we go.
Yeah.
Cool.
That's my baseline. I would have guessed 90. Like I say, I think my best ever IRL time up there, and remember, fat, old and slow are adjectives frequently self-applied to myself. I think my best ever time was about 1:42, something like that. So 90 minutes, I think, for a pretty, a fittish amateur rider sounds about right.
So Simon, the question I have, before you go up, will you be selecting the Everest Challenge just to get a little bit closer to that Tron bike that you don't have? Because there's a lot of elevation up Ventoux,
I thought we'd
the
agreed
horse back in the stable. Come on.
I thought we had a gentleman's agreement, chaps, that we were no longer going to refer to this subject.
So that's a no?
Man, come on, Simon. That's a no? Really?
Like when politicians don't want to talk about something and they say that subject is, as far as we are concerned, closed. Well, that's how I feel about it. That's how I feel about the Tron bike. I'm just not talking about it. I'm not talking about it. That is history. I don't want it. I never needed it, and I'm not bothered. I don't care anymore. I don't want it. No, not for me. That horse has left the barn. Nathan, all that crazy fitness, man, that you've been accruing over winter and spring. Are you deploying that in real life races at all?
So I talked to a couple of, because you get bikes, you get sponsors, and they're like, well, what are we doing? So a lot of Zwift racing. There is a race that's happening for sure in July on a local race car track actually here. So it's like a 12-hour thing that's happening. So I'm going to be doing that Race America. It's called So we'll be doing that in late August for In Real Life, but that's all I got for In Real Life. So I'm just racing on Zwift a ton. And then I've started, so the mixer shut down. We all had the option to go to Facebook Gaming. I took that on. And so I got partnered with Facebook Gaming now, and I've separated out all gaming traditional content to Twitch. And I'm doing all cycling, Zwifting, nutrition, coaching, outdoor riding on the Nathan Guerra Facebook gaming channel now. So
cool.
So now there's going to be a lot more Zwift racing content just of myself there. Totally separate thing from ZCL, and just, essentially making that the thing that I'm up to. I raced 3 times this weekend, actually. So, and I'm definitely feeling, it's interesting. I am most definitely feeling that July race fitness that you get when you're racing in real life, where it's like you start peaking out, and it's like all you do is race your bike and you keep getting better and better fitness from it. And I'm absolutely loving it, actually. So,
it's very good to hear. Very good to hear. Okay, well, my riding both inside and outside is beginning to contribute to increased fitness levels for me, which is very nice to see. Nowhere near, of course, the strength of you, Nathan, or you historically, Shane, or probably even now, actually. But I'm definitely feeling the best I've felt for ages, and I'm enjoying riding my bike at the moment more than I think I can ever remember, actually. So that's a jolly good thing. I'll be doing that on Von2 next weekend. We're going to be very European, actually, and we're going to take August as holiday for the Zwiftcast. There's not going to be a Zwiftcast in August, but we will be back firing on all cylinders in September. So enjoy the rest of the summer, endure the rest of the winter until we speak again. Thanks very much indeed, my friends, and we'll talk in September.
Cheers.
All right. See you then.
And the usual housekeeping. Thank you very much to Zwift for their continued support. And that support has now been extended for a further year. So you've got another year of Zwiftcasts to look forward to. But that's on the same terms as before, which means that we decide what goes into the Zwiftcast, not Zwift. Thanks for listening. See you next time.